Hello, TradingView community. Welcome to my new analysis about AUD USD on several time frame perspectives. And within the recent times, AUD USD has shown up with some very important developments here in this whole structure as it dumped massively to the downside and showed up with these huge bearish dumps to the downside, increasing with huge bearish accelerations to the downside. And these were actually some crucial developments that should not be underestimated in any cases here, because this whole structure is still very bearishly inclined here. And therefore, currently, this structure is actually building some very crucial dynamics that are pointing to the upcoming determinations that should be considered within this whole structure. And with this being said, this whole structure is now forming a really crucial development. Now, when looking here at this whole structures, the price action just recently showed up with this huge dump to the downside, increasing with huge bearishness and also increasing with high bearish volume. This dump pulled down the AUD USD price action below previous lows here within the recent structures and format the next lower here within this whole structure. And now this price action is actually penetrating this major descending trend line here within this whole structure. And this descending trend line here within this whole structure is such a important descending trend line, because as the price action now penetrates this descending trend line structure here within this whole development, this means that the more often this descending trend line structure is penetrated, the higher the possibility becomes that once the price action has broken down this descending trend line structure, this is going to accelerate the price action heavily to the downside and show up with a huge dump into this direction. And now, as it has to be seen here, the price action is now penetrating this descending trend line within this whole structure. And this is actually a really crucial development here, because if the price action should just bounce below this trend line here within this whole structure, this is going to set up the next major bearish wave to the downside. And this is going to be fatal for the whole AUD USD price action chart. And also, there are also some other important signs that need to be considered here within this whole structure, especially when looking at the whole local time frame perspectives. The price action here on the local time frame perspectives showed up with these major dumps to the downside, especially forming a crucial double top formation here within this whole structure, from where it showed up with these major dumpings to the downside. And now from here on, the price action is penetrating this lower boundary within this whole structure. And this is actually a major important penetration, because in this case, the price action is also forming a larger broadening wedge formation here within this whole structure. This is a really crucial broadening wedge formation, because once it has been completed, this will accelerate the trend action dynamics and show up with the major wave E expansion once the final breakout has shown up below the lower trend lines within this whole structure. And in this case, this will be actually the setup for the continuations into this direction. And in this case, the target projection can be projected onto the lower target zones. And in this case, it will easily activate levels below the 0.616 area. And in this case, this will be a highly crucial target determinations to consider here within this whole structure. And therefore, this will be a really crucial development once the price action has plummeted below these levels. This will accelerate the bearish price action into these regions and continue with the bearish price actions into these developments. Also, what is likely to accelerate this dynamic is a stronger DXI index and a lowered US CPI condition, in which the US CPI decreases further, because it has to be said that within the AUD region, the inflation is much, much larger, and the central bank needs to implement much larger interest rates hikes. This is why also such bearish developments have shown up here within the real price action. And therefore, with this being said, once the price action has shown up with this bearish down trend price action breakouts within the next times, this will accelerate the bearish price action dynamics much further, because when looking here at this whole structure, this will actually break down a really, really long trend line within this whole structure, which had its origins within the 2020 corona pandemic downturns, price action decreases, supply action increases, and massive bearish downturns. This trend line will then be broken, and this will be actually a historical trend line breakout, because this trend line had its origins within the 2020 corona pandemic bear market price action to the downside that actually expanded in a fast manner than never seen before. Also, when looking at this whole structure here, the AUD USD price action is also forming a much larger formational structure here within this whole structure. This is actually a major, further, bigger, larger, globally expanding broadening wedge formation. And with this broadening wedge formation, it has to be mentioned that this broadening wedge formation is also forming a broadening wedge wave count within this whole structure, in which the wave E is going to set up the next major bearish target determinations onto the lower breakout areas, and it is going to accelerate the bearish dynamics into these directions heavily and enormously, especially firstly when the first step has been made with completing this broadening wedge on the local timeframes. This will also accelerate the broadening wedge expansions on the broader timeframe perspective and show up with this large wave E extension. And in this case, targets below the 0.56 area will be activated and will likely to be reached within this whole bearish price action development. And therefore, these are some really, really, really crucial developments to show up here and to consider within the next times. Especially, there are also major underlying developments that we are watching within the data dashboard, because the inflation within the AUD region could accelerate to enormous levels, which means that high interest rates need to be implemented within the AUD region. This means that this is a bearish indication for the AUD USD price action, and also means that when the US CPI decreases further within the next times, this is also likely a driver for further bearish price action to the downside. And this actually increases the possibility likelihood for these whole structure dynamics to show up with a bearish inclination and to continue with these bearish dynamics to the downside, especially when considering this whole bearish price action dynamic cycle to the downside with this huge bearish price action dynamic cycle. And therefore, these are the main targets to be considered once this gigantic broadening wedge formation has been completed within the next times. Therefore, this will be a highly crucial dynamic to watch out within the next times. And this is why we are keeping this AUD USD Forex pair symbol on the watch list to re-evaluate the situation once these dynamics have set up within the next times. With this being said, it is greatly appreciated when you support my project further with a like, follow, and comment. With this being said, have a good day. Bye bye.